This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After reviewing the instructions, what if enlightenment was nothing mysterious, but rather the mastery of Proto-Buddhism's Eightfold Path of Enlightenment? What do we mean by mastery? What if mastery meant that simply that we got so good at any task that we were able to practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively? Case could be made that humans are mastery machines. As children, we came to master using the toilet instead of our diapers, brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, riding a bike, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So what is the easiest way to truly master the Buddha's Eightfold Path? I would put to you that it is the seventh and eighth folds of mindfulness and meditation that hold the key. The more we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation, perhaps as little as once every 12 hours, the more we cannot help but master the right view of impermanence, no self, and emptiness. Now, there's a lot of confusion surrounding no self, emptiness, mindfulness, and meditation. Fortunately, that confusion is most easily cleared up by viewing that subject matter through the metaphoric lens of neuroscience. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our autonomic nervous system, the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as the core of our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. All of them. From the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. But what are we to do with that which we notice? In a word, we meditate. You see, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access both the tippy top as well as the very bottom of that same spinal cord, also known as the core of our autonomic nervous system. These two extremes, working as a team, can be described as the core of our parasympathetic nervous system and have evolved to help us physically relax and mentally release during each exhalation to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. All complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. Perhaps that is why in every human culture we have not only literal statements, but also figurative statements, including similes, metaphors, and hyperbole, or hyperbole. So let's reverse engineer the metaphor of emptiness. A simile is only as, so the first step is to take the metaphor and turn it into simile, and that's already been done in the text in front of us. You know it's a simile because it has the word as or like adjacent to it. So a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. What then is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? Something. How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand? Now that we've understood that emptiness is just a metaphor to describe the fleeting experience latent within each exhalation, that returns us to the idea of no self. Once again, if we approach no self literally, we're going to get stuck in the dead end of either blind faith or pseudo-intellectual striving, neither of which is beneficial. What then is the solution? Think of it this way. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever label or sense of self we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was fleetingly less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. That's all. So we're not saying there is no self. What we're saying is as we inhale, we could experience yes self. And as we relax into our exhalation, we could experience no self. That same linguistic sleight of hand is used extensively in the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. We do not meditate to understand something. We do not meditate to stop noticing things. We do not meditate to stop believing in things. We meditate. We practice mindfulness and meditation for the sole purpose of taking a relaxing break from the exhausting habit of actively competing against our own autonomic nervous system. Let's return to Proto-Buddhism's Eightfold Path of Enlightenment. When we scour these eightfolds, we do not see any vows, we do not see any rules, we do not see any mention of karma, we do not see any mention of punishment or reward. From where then does morality come? The late Karma Jigme insisted that the essence of morality was simply non-violence. Many centuries later, Tulku Thondup explained that the highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. Let's take a closer look at that. What is the opposite of mindfulness and meditation? It's active focus and active analysis. When overdone, it can so exhaust our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortices that it triggers our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which is a drag. However, when we cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated. In the Satipatthana Sutta, in the discourse of the Buddha's, the Buddha taught of 4 bases of mindfulness: the mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. The more we play with mindfulness and meditation, the more we bring those 4 bases of mindfulness into the path of love, causing us to spontaneously practice kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. And you might say, and understandably so, feeling love is easy. How are we to know what the right thing to do or say or choose is, no less when to do it? That's a good question. Check this out. The more we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation, maybe once every 12 hours or so, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow, not from calculated contrivance, nor from wild scatterness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity. This is known by many names. Some call it right effort. Some people call it effortless effort. Some people call it doing without doing. Some people call it wu wei. Some people call it going with the flow. Some people call it being in the zone. Some people call it expedient means. It is the effortless byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. Now, for those who have fallen under the thrall of Yang's religious patriarchy, for those who have fallen under the influence of institutional Buddhism, for those who think it's a good idea to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, this could seem too good to be true. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans, including meditation teachers. But what about the 10% who are drawn to Yin's spiritual matriarchy, who are drawn to proto-Buddhism, who yearn to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind? These are the people who rejoice in the Buddha's teaching found in the second to the final passage of his discourse on the 4 bases of mindfulness, when he explained that due to the simplicity and naturalness of this path, one could master it in as little as 7 days. Come, my friends. In an effort to meditate like a Jedi, let's shift gears. If we went to the gym, we might warm up before we started doing exercises. Let's warm up our mind by passively exploring impermanence through the use of 4 rhetorical questions. As we feel our diaphragm draw down during our inhalation, we could recite the first half, how could lots? And as we could silently and mentally recite the first half, how could lots? And as we feel our diaphragm reset back up during our passive, gentle exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the second half of the question, always change. Let us bring the physical into the path of impermanence with the rhetorical question, how could forms always change? Let us bring the interpersonal into the path of impermanence through the silent and mental recitation of the rhetorical question, how could feels always change? Lastly, let us bring our experience of the mental into the path of impermanence by silently and mentally reciting the rhetorical question, how could minds always change? Let us set aside passive contemplation and turn our attention to mindfulness and meditation. As we feel our diaphragm pull down during our inhalation, to silently and mentally recite the verb noticing. As we feel our diaphragm reset during our gentle exhalation, and we silently and mentally recite the verb relaxing. The Buddha did not teach us to work with our energy in an effort to change certain trances or states. However, we can work with energy to support the practice of active sitting, wherein we assume a position that is relaxed and sustainable. Yet during each inhalation, we generate a vertical traction between our tuchus and our head. Let us begin by inviting our real or imagined subtle energy to coalesce at the crown of our head by using the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. The free fall of mindfulness and meditation could feel deeply jarring to our rigid and controlling tendencies. A workaround would be to play with a variation of Bengali crease counting. In addition to using our left index finger to support our right index finger, we can use our left thumb. We can touch the tip of our left thumb to the lower set of creases of its little finger thus keeping track of our first set of 12 inhalations. The actual inhalations we can count using our right thumb. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb noticing as we inhale, we could advance our right thumb across the creases, the sets of creases found on the inside of our four fingers. So together as a team, let us practice for about 1 minute. Having come to the final set of creases on my right index finger, I return my attention to my left thumb and advance it to the next set of creases. And thus you get the basic idea of how we could count 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. Doing so takes about 12 minutes. To keep track of our second collection of 12 sets of 12 inhalations, we can slide the tip of our left index finger up to the middle knuckle of our right index finger. And remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I check for questions about once every 6 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. For I tend to check for questions about once every 8 minutes or so. Let us seal this practice by bringing the four bases of mindfulness into the path of love. Let us silently and mentally recite the loving wish, profound joy for all minds. And now let us silently and mentally recite profound peace for all fields. This is a reference to the interpersonal. Let us bring the physical into the path of love by silently and mentally reciting profound health for all forms. Let us bring the circumstantial into the path of love by silently and mentally reciting good fortune for all lots. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. And if you, whoopsie, wrong button, let's try this again. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's dawn explanation and group practice of meditating like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.